Hi, and welcome to your Inside Power. My name's Patricia Stepler, and I'm going to guide you through this super important topic on entrepreneurial thinking. Do you think like an entrepreneur? Why is that important? And what if we're not an entrepreneur? Do we need to really think like an entrepreneur? Well, I'm here to say, yes, you do, because as we think like an entrepreneur, that's how we attract into our lives exactly the things that we want. So whether you are in business for yourself or if you're not, entrepreneurial thinking will get you really far in life. So let's look at this. Thoughts are very powerful, and thoughts are omnipresent. They're always around us. They are in the ether. They're there for us to pick up. And those thoughts become things. So we have these thoughts floating around, and you can just take out the air, which ones you want, and you can start to develop an idea of something you want. And that's how everything is made. Everything is made first from a thought that somebody comes up with. So you think of an entrepreneur like an Elon Musk, and you think of how they thought of an idea, and then they figured out and developed it. That's what every musician does. That's what every artist does. That's what every inventor does. They're solving a problem and they get a thought and then they figure it out. Well, we can do the same thing. It's not just for certain people. We all have that thought process. The thing we have to do is once we get that idea is to keep focused on it. Now, we have these 6 intellectual faculties within us, one of them being the imagination. That's where our thought comes in, and we get those ideas and we start thinking about them, and we bring them and we hold them with focus with our will. And that's just how much ability do we have to concentrate on an idea and to keep focused on that idea. Now, for many people, this is a problem because if it doesn't exactly come into being immediately, we tend to dismiss it and say, oh, well, that's not a very good idea. Or if we get this idea, but we're like, I don't know how to even do that, then we dismiss it. And so we tend to dismiss most of the ideas that could actually develop into something great. And I remember talking to 2 different friends of mine, and they were talking about things that they had thought about inventing. In fact, one person had actually invented it, and then he stopped. And that was the end of it. And pretty soon, somebody else had the same thought, invented it, made millions. I remember listening to Napoleon Hill talk on a recording that they had done years and years ago, of course, because he's been gone since I think in the 1960s. But there was a recording, and he said one time when he was giving a talk that somebody else came up to him with all these disheveled pages all over the place and had that same idea as Napoleon Hill did in his very famous book, Think and Grow Rich. What was the difference? That guy had papers. Napoleon Hill actually put it together and did something with it, got it published, did talks. But that other guy may have had the same thoughts, the same ideas, but he didn't do anything with them. See, those thoughts are there, but we must take action. Action is so key if we're going to increase the way we want. So keep focused, get the idea, keep focused on it. Realize that even things that are in your thoughts, they're invisible to us in our vision at the time, but that has the power to change. And so if you can hold it in your mind, then you can hold it in your hand. That's what Bob Proctor used to always say. If you can see it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand. Meaning that if you have that vision and you're given that vision, you're also given all the ability to acquire it. You're never given a vision you don't have the ability to acquire. Now, that doesn't mean you will acquire it. It means you have the ability. Might mean that you have to develop a new talent or to develop a new skill, but you have the ability. And it's your choice. You see, life is a choice. It's just lots of choices. And it's your choice whether you develop that skill and talent you need. And this is again why so many people stop, because there is a roadblock in front of them. But I guarantee you, if there's a roadblock in front of you, there is a way above it, below it, around it, through it. You can figure it out. Well, most people, when they get that roadblock, they feel that they've failed. No, you have not failed. It's just that you don't understand that the path you chose wasn't the right one. And you may need to find a new path. See, success is never a straight line, never, ever, ever straight line. And while it may seem that some people make success a straight line, I guarantee you, if you really talk to them and find out all the things that went wrong and all the things they had to change and all the things that did not work out the way they intended, you will find it was not a straight line for them either. But we see people at their highest point of success and we say, oh, so easy for them. I guarantee you, it's not easy for anyone. There's been struggles, and honestly, it's your mindset that can make it easier or more difficult for you. And if you have that entrepreneurial mindset going into it, knowing that you have to have a growth mindset, you have to be willing to grow and change, and you have to be willing to take a risk, and you have to be willing to persist and have perseverance and go through those challenges, then that's the entrepreneurial mindset. So when we look at this, we have to realize that thought travels very quickly. In fact, scientists say that thought travels the speed of light. And they did some experiments. I think it was Duke University years ago. We're doing this experiment where students at the university were communicating with astronauts in space. So they were hundreds of thousands of miles apart. And they were, thinking and concentrating on a picture or an idea and sending that message to those astronauts. And I think it was a very high percentage, like 85% of the time, that message was getting through to them. What happened with the ones that didn't? Probably the concentration wasn't enough. They weren't focused enough. So we have to understand that thoughts are things, thoughts travel, and that determines how you live in your life. Those thoughts, how you're thinking. So many times people dismiss the whole thing about mindset. Oh, I got a great mindset. I'm a positive mindset. This and that and everything. Great, because that's the beginning. But do you have the thought process that will take you to those heights that entrepreneurs can go to? And when you start to realize that it's not luck, that it's an exact science as to how to do this, then you start to realize that you can do this in all aspects of your life. And you don't have to look at somebody else and be jealous or try to compete with them. No, just be creative. Figure it out for yourself and find the help, people like me who can help you to develop the entrepreneurial mindset in order to get you to where you want to go and to get you to the good that you desire. Understand that there is a power behind this, and that power is the source energy. You can call it source energy, you can call it infinite intelligence, you can call it God, you can call it Allah, whatever your religious background is, there is a source energy and there's a power that's bigger than you. And that's the one thing you have to accept, that there is something bigger than you that knows all. In my very favorite book, Signs of Getting Rich, Wallace D. Wallace talks about it this way. He says, there is a thinking stuff from which all things are made, a thinking stuff, which permeates and penetrates and fills the inner spaces of the universe. So it's omnipresent. That's the thought stuff. It's around us all the time. A thought in the substance produces a thing that is imaged by the thought. So whatever you want, you can produce in that the thought substance. And man can form things in his thought. And by impressing those thoughts upon this formless substance can cause a thing he thinks about to be created. Now, you can believe that or you don't have to believe that, but that's the way things happen. That's exactly the way musicians compose music. And I can talk about that because I'm a music teacher and I was not really a composer. That's not my thing. I'd rather be the performer. But a musician will get a thought, they'll get a melody, it'll be spinning in their head. And then they write it down and then it becomes a thing. And then somebody performs it and it becomes, recorded. But it all started with a thought. And then it became a thing. But that's what we do. We're like composers of our life. So it's our choice to decide whether we're going to live big or we're going to live small. And if you're living small, just realize it's your choice and it's okay. You can choose to live small or you can choose to live big, but it is a choice. It's not something somebody else does to you. It's a choice. Understand that our thinking has been programmed. We have been programmed from the time we were small children. From even when we were still in our mother's wombs, we were being programmed genetically and environmentally. And you can see genetic programming. That's why you look like another family member, because of the genetic programming. But there's also some genetic habitual thoughts that come along with that. And so you tend to do things like your parents or your grandparents because it's that part of the genetic. And then it's environmental. What things have you picked up from the friends you have and the things that you've done and the thoughts that you have? So it's both. And our programming has caused limitations to be put in us. And so it's our responsibility to be able to unlock those limitations so that we can live the life we really want. And you can do it. It takes work. It takes study. It takes time. It's not something you just flip a switch and it's done. It takes knowing who you are. That's why this show is called Your Inside Power, because it takes going inside of you to figure things out. I just got off the phone with my accountability partner, and I was saying that this week I've spent a lot of time doing work inside of me, really clarifying my goal. And sometimes, and I've been guilty of this, I have a goal, but it's very vague. And so I needed to really clarify my goal. Why do I have to clarify? Well, because if I don't have a clear vision, how can I relate that to this substance? If my goal is vague, then the result's going to be vague. And usually vague means it's not existent at all. So let me see if I can find this path that it talks about, having that desire. So here's what Wallace D. Wattles says. It's not enough that you should wish to travel, see things, live more. Everybody has those desires. If you were going to send a wireless message to a friend, keep in mind this was written back in the early 1900s, you would not send the letters of the alphabet in their order and let him construct the message for himself, nor would you take words at random from the dictionary. You would send a coherent sentence, which meant something. When you try to impress your wants upon substance, that substance is around us all the time, remember that it must be done in a coherent statement. You must know what you want and be definite. You can never get rich or start the creative power into action by sending out unformed longings and vague desires. So I was very guilty of this. This is why I know it doesn't work, because when you have a vague idea or something that you wish would happen, there's no concrete pathway to go on. So I spent a lot of this week really honing in on this. What is it I want? I did some going from the end result, and going backwards. What do I need to do in order to get to my goal at the end of this year? And so I had to really spend some time figuring that out, because I need to have it be very concise and very clear and everything that we're doing. So that's just what I had to do in that thinking. So what we have to realize is that there's a story in Think and Grow Rich. It's by E.C. Barnes. Well, the story's not by him, but it's about him. And E.C. Barnes had this burning desire to be a partner with Thomas Edison. Well, Thomas Edison wasn't taking any partners. And so he came to work with Thomas Edison. As the story goes, he was just got off a train where he hooked a ride. So he's riding in a cargo area, and he was kind of a mess. And he came in and he said he'd come to be a partner with Thomas Edison. Now, what would you think if somebody walked in and told you they had come to be your partner? Yeah, well, that's pretty much what Edison thought too. But he saw something in this guy, he's determined, and he certainly had an idea of what he wanted. So he let him work around the area, and basically he swept floors. And he did that for quite a long time. And one day, Edison had this invention, and most of his salespeople just didn't think they could sell it. But E.C. Barnes got an idea, and he says, I can sell it. And he went out and he sold this product over and over and over again. And finally, Edison made him a partner on that product because he's the only one who's really selling it. You see, he took the chance. He worked hard. I'm sure he felt very discouraged sweeping floors and not being part of Edison's inner circle. But he kept his mind open, looking for opportunities. And when he found that opportunity, he jumped on it. And he got his goal to go into business with Thomas Edison. So he didn't know how he was going to do it. He just knew that that's what he wanted. And that's the kind of goal you need to have. You don't need to know how. You just need to have clarity on what it is that you want. And when you have clarity, then it will start to unfold. Now, when it starts to unfold, you have to realize that you may be shown a path, an opportunity that you don't think is the right one because it's not your idea. Keep in mind, your idea might not work. And that opportunity may be opening up for you in a way that you did not realize. And that's also the way it works. We don't always know what opportunities could come along that could be the right thing. So keep that in mind too. Psychologists said that when one is truly ready for a thing, it puts in its appearance. Now, when one is truly ready, you see, sometimes it takes study, it takes time, it takes work, it takes effort, it takes finding out what doesn't work before you find out what does work. Going back to Thomas Edison, they say he found 10,000 ways that the light bulb would not work. But it took him one to be very famous. And sometimes we have to realize that too, that, sometimes we're not ready. We think we're ready, but we're not, because we have to become the person we need to be first before things are going to really start to happen. And sometimes that goes back to building confidence. And I work with my clients on this all the time, because you have to have a certain amount of confidence to be able to do what you're doing. And, if your goal was up here, the only reason you don't already have that goal is because you are not the person you need to be. You do not have the confidence or the self-esteem or, the knowledge yet of what you need to get there. But as soon as you do, things will start to move your way. And you have to trust that that will happen. And you have to keep working at it and finding the people that will help you, because it takes maybe one person to help you with one thing and another person to help you with another thing. And you keep learning along the way. And sometimes it becomes frustrating. I know that because I went through that. It becomes very frustrating and very expensive to keep finding those people. But you have to trust that somebody will finally be able to help you. And that's why I built this holistic program for my clients, because I want them to realize that it's not one thing. It's having that entrepreneurial mindset. It's having the tools and system. It's having those operating procedures in place. It's having the marketing in place. And you have to have everything moving in a certain way. But it starts with your thought process. If your thought process is not right, you see, you can have two people doing the exact same thing, and one has the entrepreneurial thought process and the other person does not. And that person, the entrepreneurial thought process, will go skyrocketing above the other person, even though they're doing the same thing. Why? Because they understand that there's a science behind it. It's not just a matter of doing things. It's a matter of doing things in a certain way and doing things and be able to, have the action, have the thoughts in a certain way. And then you can really multiply your results big time. And that's how you make quantum leaps. Napoleon Hill says about opportunity, it has a shy habit of slipping in by the back door and often come disguised in the form of misfortune or temporary defeat. Isn't it amazing? And he says, perhaps this is why so many fail to recognize opportunity, because they think it's not there. And I appreciate those thumbs up. You're exactly right. You see, it comes in through the back door and we let it go right through us and we miss the opportunity. So Barnes, going back to E.C. Barnes, he had faith. He didn't know how it was going to happen, but he had belief and faith that it would happen. And he took initiative. He didn't just sit around saying, well, I'll just wait until it happens. No, he went to work every day, sweeping floors or doing menial type jobs for Edison in order to get that first opportunity. And that's what we have to do. So we look for those opportunities and we start to move forward. And we've got to realize that as we move towards them, they come towards us. And that's how it works. You move towards your goal and your goal starts to move towards you. So when we do that, we have to realize that there's plenty for everybody. We are not competing against people. All we need to do is be creative. Be creative ourselves, not competitive, and realize that there's plenty out there for all of us. He said, limiting mindset is going to keep you stuck. And we don't want to be stuck. We want to see the abundance. Now, I want you to think of this. A coin. You hold a coin, you have the heads and you have the tails. If you're holding the heads in your hand, or even holding it like with your hand open, you can't see the tails. You can only see one side of the coin. You can't go left and right at the same time. You can't see both sides of that coin. And so we have to realize that abundance and lack are the same way. You can't have both of them in your mind at the same time. You either have an abundance mindset and you're thinking of all things and possibilities of what can happen, or you have a lack and limitation mindset. But you can't have both of them at the same time, because they're two sides of the same coin. And so we can't do that. You cannot see both sides at the same time. Our thoughts must be directed towards what we want. We have to move towards what we want. We have to go towards what we want to be fulfilled. We cannot look at the other side. So you can't be going towards abundance and still have lack and limitation and doubt in your mind. You're going to stop yourself or disconnect with that source energy, or you're going to slow your process down at the very least. So even small shifts in your thinking and small shifts every time you have a thought of lack, get rid of it right away. And that will bring you enormous success. And you'll start to see little by little, you'll have progress. And you'll start to attract what you concentrate on. It's a matter of keeping it forefront in your mind, keeping that idea of what you want, concentration, holding it with your will, holding that imagination there, thinking about not once a week or once a month, but know what it is and keeping it in your mind daily. As we see things as real, they'll start to appear. Now, that seems like, what do you mean? If you see things as real, you have to see them in your mind. You have to see the house you want to live in. You have to see the car you want to drive. You have to see the clients that you want. You have to see the good that you desire already in your life. Pretend, if you're looking for jewelry, pretend you're wearing that jewelry. If you're going on a trip, pretend you're there and, look at the site and see what things might be there. If you're wanting a car, when you get in your own car, pretend you're in the car you want to be in. When you're in your house, you got to open a door. Pretend you're opening the door to the house you want to open. See it in your mind first. And then you'll be able to see it in reality, because the more you concentrate on it, you start to figure out how you're going to get it. And this works every time. Have you ever wanted a new car and you picked out the car and you even picked out the color and you went and you looked at it and you test drove it, but you didn't know how you were going to get that car? But you kept concentrating on it. And all of a sudden you notice that car is all over the place. You didn't used to see them, but all of a sudden you see them everywhere. That's because it's so fixed in your mind. And pretty soon that car ends up in your driveway because you've figured out a way to do it. But we cannot allow fear and worry and doubt to get in our way, because that will stop us every single time. So I have some other things I'd love to share with you, but I know our time is getting short. And I want to invite you to some master classes. I put it in the show notes. I'd love to have you come to my master class and be able to interact with you on various topics and dealing with this entrepreneurial mindset and tools and systems that you need to get in place if you're building a business. And so I invite you to check out that link. And I would love to have a conversation with you. Check me out on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn and Instagram, and you can see my bio links to get in contact with me or direct message me. I'd love to have a conversation with you to show you how you can go from where you are to where you really want to be in life and create the life and the lifestyle of your dreams, because it all starts with a thought. And you can change and turn those thoughts into the things that you really want.